Is it time to disembark from the European club for good, change the flow of trade and traffic with the continent? Or should we keep the drawbridge down, remain in the EU and have free movement of goods and people from Europe, rather than leave and bring in curbs and control? It's at ports like Harwich where the most visible change of leaving the European Union will be seen. Our passports might look like those of old, without the words European Union at the top.
Well, next tonight, two of our councils have confirmed we'll soon be seeing the biggest rise in our council tax bills this decade. Well, Simon Dedman is outside the council offices in Chelmsford for us now. And Simon, we're talking about a big funding gap to fill there.
It is. It's a huge sum, £123 million that they've had to find for the next financial year. And the Conservative administration here at Essex County Council say they are going to be able to balance the books. And they're doing that by raising council tax from April by 4%. That brings in £22 million. They are going to have to dip into the reserves as well. That's the savings that councils have. But they are going to have to make £76 million worth of savings over the next year, most of that coming from adult social care. That's the services that look after elderly to disabled people. But the administration says there will not be a cut in the service. They will be making efficiency savings, they say. Well, hello and welcome to day 2 of the Queen's Baton Relay here in England. We have a glorious start here in High Bradfield, and the Baton is about to take a quick cycle ride half a mile down, led by this gentleman here. Rob, how does it feel that you've got the Queen's Baton in your hands?
It feels quite heavy and I feel quite nervous. It's a great honour holding this, you know, it represents a lot, so yeah.
And cycling a big part of this part of the country as well.
It is, it's quite hard cycling country, but it is. There's a lot of famous cyclists have come from Sheffield, so yes.
And so how come you and your club have actually been chosen to take the Baton on its journey down to Low Bradfield?
Well, I think probably because we are quite local. We actually meet every week about 2 miles down the road here and ride out in this part of the country. And I think the organisers wanted someone who was local, and cycling, as you say, is a big part of the games. So we ended up being chosen.
And how fast are you going to be taking this? Obviously, it's a very precious thing. There's only one of these.
As slow as possible. It's a very steep hill down there, and there's only one of me as well as one Baton, so I've got to be very careful.
And only one on bike. I know one of your colleagues had a bit of a bad accident as well, so you want to take it careful.
He did, but you can buy a new bike. I think this Baton is irreplaceable, so I've got to be very, very careful indeed with it.
Well, treat yourself and the Baton well. Thank you very much for your time. Well, this is now the start here at High Bradfield. It's going to go half a mile down the road to Low Bradfield and then into Sheffield for more of the relay this Sunday. Plans to build a third one of these further down the Thames dominates political chat here on the doorstep. Thurrock Council is like Game of Thrones, with the kingdoms of Labour, Conservative and UKIP locked in a tight three-way fight to be top political dog. All three parties are against a new Lower Thames crossing on the council. Every vote in every ward counts in this election, which is too close to call. From next month, the first Syrian refugees from these camps bordering their war-ravaged nation will leave the Middle East for the East. By Christmas, there could be up to 24 Syrians living here in Colchester. I've seen Home Office figures showing local councils will get £8,000 per Syrian adult and up to £14,000 for taking in a child refugee from the government. The local council here and community groups are starting to prepare for their arrival. But is everyone going to welcome them?
I think it needs to be sort of controlled.
Meet Pauline. She works at Canvey Snooker Hall and wants to get out of the EU. Whereas Emily, a trainee agricultural trader from Chelmsford, wants to stay in. We've brought them to Brussels to see what the EU is really like.
I'm happy to be here, but I'm still out. I feel that Britain still needs its individuality like all the European countries.
And Emily, what about yourself?
It's great to have just arrived in Brussels. I think the UK should stay. I think it benefits massively from being in the EU.
First stop, the European Parliament, and a meeting with the East's actively pro-EU Richard Howitt. Thousands of children live without mental health treatment in Essex. In his teens, Andrew Gordon was one of them for a while.
I would wander around the streets of Baton in hope that maybe someone, a group, would injure me, would beat me up, would stab me or whatever. So I came to this place and, was thinking about jumping off the bridge. I was thinking about throwing myself in front of a lorry or a car because I didn't want to exist. Eventually the police came and they took me to hospital.
Andrew had fallen through the cracks of the system.
I had good professionals. I had professionals that really cared about me, working with me. But when I went from child services to adult services, there was nothing.
That is one of the things the new children's mental health system in Essex aims to prevent: young adults relapsing. But it's also toughening up intervention. That's what Fitness in Mind has been doing in Brentwood for those aged 16 and upwards for the past few years, improving well-being.